25, 2022. Market just opened and I am just waiting for my set. Okay, so for today, I traded three stocks. SPY was trending lower, had a little bit of a pullback, and I was short bias for today. So what I saw was from my gap down list, I had a setup that was forming. First is under coin, the next one is Mara, and the third one was Snap. I was done trading. I only traded less than an hour today and was able to get at least a 2300 with all those three trades. And that is the power of having a trade book. I discussed today about encouraging you to have a trade book yourself as well, which you can use the trade book that I am currently using. I compiled a list of my strategies, put it in a trade book where my strategy name, as well as the time frame. Like for instance, I like doing opening range breakout at 9:30 until around 10 and VWAP play around that time. So those strategy that is located in the trade book are all posted in the website. So for this, I was looking at Mara and I did manage to have entered Mara when it was having an opening range breakdown. Now, unlike Coin, that it gave me that follow through, that it had that opening range breakdown, Mara at my first tab for that opening range breakdown, it did stop me out. So as you can see there, I got stopped out, and that's okay. That's part of trading. We cannot time all our trades. All that we can do is manage our risks. So for Mara, it did stop me out and I got a loss of around 600. So now I am waiting for another entry on this. And this yesterday's close is starting to become a very strong resistance. So thought process is, if this gives me a signal to go short, then I will short this. I keep going back and forth between Mara and Coin because they are both on that cryptocurrency play. So I did enter short Mara. Coin, I cannot enter it just because I am in Mara trade, so my capital is tied in Mara. So as soon as I entered Mara, I did see that little bit of a pullback, which is what I was expecting. And with that, I do have an unrealized of around 200. So I did record the rest of my trading day as well as the thought process. And I did explain as well what is it that I'm looking at and what is the strategy that I am currently doing. So here's my recording for the day, and here it is. So I'm just in the Mara trade. This one is a reversal trade. I see here that it had tried to touch the yesterday's close. That is the dotted line right here. And we do have those moving averages there. That is a very good resistance line. That's why I entered short here with that forming inverted hammer now, which is a confirmation as well that we are on the right thesis. Now we're getting lower than those moving averages here, so no need to take some profits yet. My 15 moving averages still has some support here, but slowly grinding lower, so we'll see. Coin was a quick opening range breakout trade. So as soon as I saw that it was about to break the low of the day, so I entered there and I added at the VWAP. I did see that it did not go higher than the previous candle, and it actually opened lower, so I added at the VWAP. After I added at the VWAP, just covering at the drop, I did not add to my position here, considering that it's a bit extended from 68 all the way to 66.7. So I just covered here, covered as well, and all the way to the low of the day, which is 66.48. I was expecting this move right here, but Coin and Mara are on the same category. They're on the Bitcoin and all those altcoin stuff. So they do have the same kind of like a move. So that's also is a confirmation. Coin is heading lower, and the same time Mara as well. So Mara is down by 1.74 for the day. What I don't like here is that we don't have much of a volume. The biggest volume that we have was 460,000 at the open, and we pretty much have been stalling the volume. But what I like about Mara is the daily chart. This previous day close, which is 12.39 around here, became a very strong resistance, and that's why I entered there. So I entered here because I'm looking at the daily chart as well. It does looks like it will try to do a gap fill, meaning there is this 9 exponential moving average from the daily chart. It can move and try to touch that one, but with all the trades has to have controlled risk. So my stop is right here above that yesterday's close. Coin is pretty much doing the same thing. I was waiting for this move for coin, but was not able to jump in because I am in Mara trade. So although this candle right here is a big candle, but the volume is not as much, so we can expect some short squeeze right here. Looking at level 2 as well as the tape, we do have those green prints pretty much equal here. $12.50 acting as a strong resistance. Looking at the volume, kind of confirmation with the coin. Coin is trading lower as well, so it can have a sympathy play with Mara. Same sector. Sector is finance and insurance. This could have been a good opening range breakout or breakdown. Entry right here, 49.36, and now we're all the way to 47. Coin is still heading lower. Very strong rejection here with that inverted hammer. This could have been the trade of the day right here. Entry right here, 49.36 with a stop loss on top, either on the body or at the wick, 49.88, and now it's 47.58. So Mara is heading on the right direction as what we have predicted. Coin, sympathy play as in Mara. First target will be close to the VWAP around 1203. Covering some, moving my stop loss to break even, protect my profit. Coin is just breaking the VWAP as well, so this is moving in our direction. Now, didn't want to turn this into a losing trade, so I'm putting a very tight stop loss. It might get me stop out, but just don't like that it's bouncing to the VWAP, so I took some, I closed my position there. Now looking for another trade. This one is still bleeding, going down. Don't like that it's bouncing, that's why I'm all out. Now coin is just playing in the VWAP, so I don't like that trade now. This one is also just playing in the VWAP, so I don't like that. It can just play in the VWAP for the longest time. This one, AMD, is under consolidation in the daily, so I don't want to get chopped. Now this one, good thing we exit, because now it has the bounce. PGY, I don't like the daily chart. Thinking of reshorting this one. I just need a good entry on this. I want it to be as close as possible to the yesterday's close. It's not giving us a lot of volume. That means this is just covering. But I want to see it squeeze up before I re-entered short. Just doing some screenshots here. It's the move that I was waiting for. I want it to be close to 12.4 before I reshort this. entering here. I don't see any more push. At this point, be a bit discovering there. Moving my stop loss to break even to protect profit. I want to see a big move on this. $12.17. It might hit our stop loss, but that's totally fine. So it's just gonna stop us out. Yep, got stop out. Waiting for re-entry. Re-entering here. I'm looking at coin, and coin is on the going lower as well, so it kind of give me that confirmation that I am short bias on this, but I'll be having a tight stop loss on this 12.27, and if this one doesn't work, then this is going to be my last trade for Mara. 12.27. So, getting a bit of a move there. I'm expecting a break from VWAP. Right now, coin has been playing on the VWAP. I did not want to touch coin because it's already in the VWAP, and VWAP can be a good support or resistance, but at least this one, I still have some room to the VWAP for a scalp trade. So once it's close to the VWAP, I'll take some partial and then move my stop loss to break even. So at this point, this is just a scalp trade. A little bit move there. 166, I didn't realize. So I like this red prints there. Let's see if we're getting bias. 1208, 1209, 1207. There's no imbalance here yet, so I really can't tell yet. But at this point, okay, just covered some and moved my stop loss to break even. So I know it's a very tight stop loss, and yep, just got me stop out. So Snap, what I like about Snap is it's forming just entering short Snap. Covering some, moving my stop loss to break even, to break that profit. 9.92. I have this 9.90, 9.90. I am waiting for a break from 9.90, 9.90, 9.90. Stop out. $9.95. Entering cutting short here again. Tight stop loss here, 10.03. Like that it's stuck in here. The thing is, yeah, there's still a big ask on this side. And 3. So put in my stop loss 10.03. What I like about this is this one, yesterday's close, is acting as a strong resistance. Daily can be a continuation play from yesterday. But yeah, we're down by 0.2%. So not a lot, but how's our 15-minute chart? Yesterday it was just no love for this. Just went all the way down. Did not move a lot from the pre-market. What I'm looking as well is the width of our pivot lines. So this one is very waiting for a drop here while I'm analyzing this. This one is a huge width, tighter width, so this can be a parabolic move today. Waiting for 990 here. Once this one breaks the VWAP, then we're up to the races. 990. $91, 90. There's our red prints. That's what we're waiting for. Just covering some here. It's just $991. I just need a continuation here. $991, all red prints here. We do have $990 here. That's what we're waiting for. Stocking. $990. There you go. That's the flash that we were waiting for. That's the flash. Now we're up to the races. Covering again. Perfect. And this is the move that I was waiting for. Once it lost the VWAP, then it's just does not have any support right there. So I'm waiting for another flush. 986. 986. We are heading to 985. Let's just cover some. Putting my my stop loss all the way down, lower than my break even, so I don't turn this one into a losing trade. This can just this might just stop us out, which is totally fine. Yep. So we got 500 there for that quick trade there. So that's the power of waiting for your setup to form. We just saw Snap, part of the one that I'm watching in my watch list, and with that move from how many candlesticks, 1 2 3 4 5 10 minutes, we're able to have at least a 500 there. Now looking for another setup, which I haven't seen anything yet. This one, thought process here is it's been bleeding from 49 all the way to 46. The setup that is good for this is if it gives us a good bounce, reversal, seen in 5 minutes chart, then we can ride this one to reversal. Snap can still have a way to go, but it's just got a stop out, so I didn't want to enter this one. Coin, this is the one that I was waiting for. And then Mara, I would like to re-enter this one considering that coin had been bleeding. So I'm looking for a good entry. I wanted to pop a bit more, so it's gonna be still on that low of this hammer right there in the 15-minute chart. So 12.13. Looking at the tape as well as level 2, 12.13, 12.15. So we're still heading higher based on level 2 and tape. So I'll wait until it gives me a signal that this one is reversing, which not yet. So 12.24, that's actually what I'm waiting for. Now I'm gonna be re-entering this one. Coin is bouncing. Snap is bouncing, and that's good that we went out. And since I have a meeting at 11, this will be my last trade. Just looking for a snap, waiting for another entry here. This is the reason why we exited Snap, just because of that. We see that short squeeze. So that moving average there is acting as a strong resistance. Enter is 12.19. $12.13, $12.18. Heading up here, 12.14. $12.10, At this point, I'm thinking of, should I take some profit? I want to have it tried a bit closer to VWAP. 12.07, 12.14. So what I like about this trade, this coin actually just broke the VWAP, and this one, so we're waiting for that as well, a sympathy play. So what I'll do, I'll look at what is the crypto doing, because Mara is, this one is what's happening to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is down by 0.08. So yeah, could be being pulled by that. And covering here, that's a VWAP there. Moving my stop loss lower than my break even, so I don't turn this one into a losing trade. Waiting for this one to break VWAP. I'm really excited about that, because once it breaks VWAP, then it will be a flush. Now the VWAP is 12.06. I'm looking right here. We do have stacking orders at 12.04, 12.02. So I'm waiting for a flush. And 12.06, 12.05. Just covering some here. Lowering it below my break even, above that moving average. So 12.14, my entry was 12.19. So even if it bounced, I'm still gonna make money of this. So 12.05, that is the one that I was waiting for. Now we're heading to 12.02, 12.12. One flush. That's expected. Just struggling there. I like 5 minutes, that inverted hammer. Look at in 15 minutes, it's still lower than this inverted hammer. Where is that inverted hammer? Right here, it's still lower than inverted hammer. So our entry was still, the movement is below that inverted hammer, but the entry is here. That's why I was waiting for a pop before I entered. So lower risk, because thought process is stop loss is going to be above this body of that inverted hammer. There you go. We're heading down now. Just covering some here. Moving my stop loss. I need to keep refreshing my stop loss because of course my shares are getting lower. So every time I hit tab, it's just that the last shares that I have is still the one it's computing. So 1019. So I'm looking for where is our next stop here. Next stop, we do have this pivot line here, S3. At this point, if it doesn't flash, then yeah, it's just gonna close me out or just gonna hit my stop loss. Oops. There you go. Yeah, so I'm all out. Yeah, and I think that's this 5 minutes, of course, still looks very bearish. Look at this. It's still lower than this inverted hammer, and it can pretty much just consolidate here and have the move that we were waiting for. Hello everyone, it's July 25, 2022, and I'm here to do a market recap. So for today, I traded 3 ticker symbols. I traded Coin, Mara, and Snap, all to the short side. I was short biased just because these 3 stocks were gapping down at the pre-market, and so with my strategy, those that have gapped down 3% or more, I would be looking into that. And so that's what happened today, and that's why I traded these 3. So to begin with, let's look at what the SPY had been doing. So the SPY had been still on that a bit of a pullback. So if we look at our daily chart here, last Friday we did see the SPY move. It went all the way to 400 and then close to 394. It did touch the low of the day at 392, and for today we can see that it is heading lower still. So we are down by 0.2% from the SPY, and with that it can also influence some of the stocks, but SPY also, yeah, we're still on that bear market. And so what I saw in Coin is it had been gapping down at the pre-market, and if you can see here in my 15-minute chart, so the closing price of this was at 70.86, and then from 4 p.m. until 8 it had been on that range, and then today at 4 a.m. it did have that gap down, go all the way to 68.97, had kind of like consolidation throughout the day, but it did hit the scanner that it had been gapping down. So what I like about this trade is we do have that pivot point, the S3 there, and that can act as a strong support. Now if we break that S3, now that's a different story. That means it can head lower than expected. So what I saw in Coin is I have my eye on Coin because again it was gapping down. So the strategy that I did for Coin is an opening range breakdown. So if you can see here, let me just get my pen here. Okay, you can see here Coin had this first candlestick, which is a bearish candlestick. And if you can see right here in the 15-minute chart, it has that support at 68.52. That support from Camarilla pivot point is also the low of the pre-market. So that is 68.52, which is right about here, this line right here. So with the opening range breakdown, what I did was I saw that it is about to break the low of the first candlestick. So that is part of the opening range breakdown. So that's why I entered a position there. So I shorted there. I saw that it had moved, tried to move up, but it did not get to go past through this candlestick right here. Of course, with my entry here, my stop loss would be right here. So I added to my position at the expectation that it's gonna go lower than the VWAP, and sure enough, it did. So I covered here, covered, and then I covered at the low of that time, low of the day, which is at 66.5. So that's how you are able to manage your risk. And of course, with that, I've been moving my stop loss lower than my break even, so I don't turn this one into a losing trade. So it did get me stop out, and I moved that stop loss right there just because that is also a sign of reversal. And sure enough, as soon as I get stop out, it did squeeze all the short sellers, and that is what we call a short squeeze. So that is my coin trade. Now with the coin trade, after watching coin trade, I'm actually simultaneously watching as well Mara, because Mara almost kind of like on the same sector, so it can have a sympathy play. Mara and coin are both in those Bitcoin categories. Bitcoin is not doing as good, and so I was looking at Mara. Mara is had that gap down as well at the pre-market, and at the pre-market here in the 15-minute chart, what we can see here is it had this close from Friday that is about like 12 point in the middle, 12.30, and then we see here from 4 p.m. until 8 just that consolidation, and then 4 a.m. today still in that consolidation, although it did break its S3 right here. So that is the low of the pre-market. Now if that is the low of the pre-market, we can have four scenarios of an opening range breakdown. First is it breaking the pre-market low? Is it breaking the first low, or that low of that candlestick, or is it breaking the pivot point line, which is the S3, and is it breaking those full dollar or half dollar amount? So four scenarios for an opening range breakdown or a breakup. So let me just erase my thing here. So what I saw here was, at first stab, I was looking at the 2-minute chart. I saw that it is under the S3 in the 5-minute chart. So also in my 2-minute chart, what I saw was this is the low of that body of that candle, so it can still form as an opening range breakdown. So I entered short there, and with all the trade, you cannot time it exactly at the right time, but that's why we're here playing the probability. So I entered short here, and then it did get me stop out. So where was my stop loss? Stop loss is above the VWAP. That's the logical stop loss there. Got a little slippage there, so I got my first trade here is a loss. So that's totally fine. That's how trading works. We can't predict it 100% of the time, but we can manage our risks. So what happened next? I saw a short squeeze right there. So all the shorts are getting squeezed. But what does that mean? That means all those who have shorted here, expecting this one to go lower, was not right, and I am part of that. So what happened is those who were short here will try to covering meaning buying, so they will increase, or they will help in pushing this higher, because some who is covering, those who are shorts here, and some who is buying, expecting this one to move because of this very bullish candlestick, which is the hammer. So with that, traders who are being short squeezed, buyers who are long bias, we did see that pop right there, and that was the pop. But what I saw here was the volume is not as large. Volume here initially was like around 500,000, and this one, the volume is dying. So this one can just be short squeeze mostly. So I was waiting for a good entry here so I can write it down to the short side. So I saw here that yesterday's close was being a good and strong resistance. So what I saw here as well is, let's take a look right here in my 5-minute chart. 5 minutes is this, having that strong resistance from yesterday, this line right there, or that dotted lines right there. So I entered there expecting, a move all the way down. So I have a stop loss. Of course, we'll get stop out when we have go or break that yesterday's close. Now, while I'm watching this one, I'm waiting for a confirmation. Is my thesis still is correct? Is my thesis being rejected? So when I saw here that we did form this inverted hammer, which is very bearish, I started to look at this and wait for a confirmation for this to go lower so I can start to partial. So in my 2-minute chart, what you can see here is it did try to break, but with no conviction at all. It even gave us that signal that it's very bearish. So sure enough, very bearish inverted hammer, and we got that big rejection. So I have my first partial at the VWAP, which is a very strong resistance. Another partial right here, the VWAP. And then, this is actually all out. I was all out here before it did try to squeeze. So when that squeeze happened, I saw that it is still forming this inverted hammer. So I re-entered here, adding to my position. At this time, it is going to be a scalp trade. So I covered my position there. Now the thesis is still valid. So what I did was, let's see here, this one is clear. So I re-entered as well. Once I re-entered, I covered at the VWAP again. As you can see here, we're getting so tight just because this one is heading to that consolidation. So as soon as I get that moving my stop loss lower than the my entry to protect my profit. And sure enough, it has been on that consolidation since. So I did not want to touch this anymore when it is just playing around the VWAP. I don't want to get my capital tight when they're just playing around with the VWAP and have not made its mind. So this last entry right here was this one, and cover. So that is my Mara trade. Now the last trade that I did was Snap. So what happened with Snap, I was trading Mara and coin, and what I saw in Snap is also part of my gap down list. If you can see in the daily chart, this can be a second day continuation play. So with a second day continuation play, what you will see is last Friday, it had that gap down. It had this very bad news. So it moved from 15.5 and then the open was at 11. So a big drawdown for this stock. Now today, it is still heading lower. If you can see here in the 15-minute chart, what you'll see is yeah, it did have that consolidation 4 p.m. until 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. and then 4 a.m. until 8 a.m. today, or 9:30, still a very tiny move. But what I saw here is this width right here is bigger than this width right here. So that is now the pivot point strategy. Pivot point strategy is you will have a strong bearish bias. Let's say you have the pivot point line here, and then it closes right here, which is what happened here, closes below that pivot point. And then if it opens the following day and it opens right here, then that is a very bearish bias. But what happened is it opened actually in the middle. So if it opens in the middle, then for me that would be just a scalp trade. And that's what happened here. Just a very tiny scalp trade. So what I saw was it did try to push it higher, but it just rejected it with this doji candle. With a doji candle, I always like a doji candle because it's a sign of indecision, and it's a very good place to trade as well if that is part of your trade book, because the low of that doji can be your entry if you're shorting, of course. So at this time it's 995, and the high of that doji, if it's too close to the wick, then you can have the wick as the stop loss and just reverse it if you're going long. So I shorted it with the entry of 9.96 with a stop loss of that above that doji. So with a very controlled risk, you're able to monetize on this. So going to the 2-minute chart so we can make this clear, what I saw was this yesterday's close was acting as a very strong resistance. So a lot of confirmation here that this stock is heading lower. You have the wick right there. Wick, 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 wick. Starting to go lower, right? And we are beneath that moving averages, beneath that yesterday's close. So my entry was below those moving averages, below those wick, below those moving average, as I mentioned. So I entered there, added to my position. This one is just a scalp trade, so I covered my position, and then next time, and then went all the way out at that sign of reversal, which is at the break-even point. Now my thesis is still valid. So what I did was, if the thesis is still valid, it's still low, below those moving averages, below those yesterday's close, I re-entered, cover, moving my stop loss, and was all out. So with that trade, my last trade, what time was that? Was this time. So before 10:10, I'm done with my trade. I do have a meeting, as I mentioned, so I'm keeping this short and sweet. But with that move, or with that, less than 1 hour, was able to manage to get 2,300. So that's the power of having a trade book. And I'm actually finishing up the trade book that I am about to post as well in the website. And with that, I encourage you to make your own trade book, just because it's so easier to manage a trade. It makes the trade more exciting and less less prone to errors, just because you wait for the trade to form, and once it forms your bias, that's the only time that you enter the trade. So it is a game changer for me when I have a trade book, and that's what I highly recommend for you to do, to make your own trade book. And the trade book that I have, I will be sharing that in the website, and so I'll be posting that today as well. So this is the trade book that I am compiling, and all the strategies that I use, what I'm watching, the indicators, my stop loss, what are the criteria, what are my entries, are all gonna be written down here, and yeah, will be there. But what I recommend again is to make your own trade book. In that way, once the market opens, you're not scrambling on what trade to take or what strategies to do. You should have a trade book. Like for me, this one is based on the time frame. Like for instance, 9:30 to around 10 is an opening range breakout, breakdown, as well as VWAP strategies and all of that. So it's broken down into different time frames. I do have an afternoon trade there, and yeah, feel free to use it, as well as make sure to make your own as well, because it depends as well on your risks, your personality. So your trade book is gonna be based from those factors. So that's it for today, and I hope you had a good trading day. And as always, if you have questions, please feel free to email me.